So what are the minimum buying requirements for a successful Amazon FBA seller? Well, stay tuned to find out. Hi guys, my name's Simon. I'm a six-figure Amazon seller in the UK, and today we're going to be talking about what are the minimum buying requirements that I teach to my students to make sure they're successful in Amazon FBA. And also, there's a few caveats I'm going to add to that as well, so make sure you stay tuned to find out what those are. So guys, what do I mean by minimum buying requirements? Well, basically it's a set of rules that you should follow as a beginner when it comes to sourcing and then buying products. So for example, once you're actually searching for a product and you found one and you're putting all the details into your profit calculator, it's going to spit out how much profit you're going to make in terms of like pounds or dollars. It's going to spit out the ROI, and also you're going to be able to see the sales per month of that item. And it's basically a set of minimum rules for that. So, you know, something like 20-30% ROI or a certain amount of money. But yeah, essentially that's what that is. And I've got a whole slide sheet here, so we're going to switch over to that now. So let's go ahead and look at the general rules that I teach my students. So here we go. We've got the sort of minimum purchase requirements. And guys, I want to caveat this as these are general rules, and these are rules that I put in place for students because it can help them stay out of trouble and make sure that they're basically buying good products. So one of the things I first say is you really need to be making a minimum of £2 per item. Now, the reason for this is that you just don't want to be wasting your time going for anything less. So, you know, people send me products where they're making 50p, 60p, you know, and if you can do a crazy volume on those, cool, that's great. You know, I wouldn't say no, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. But as a general rule, what I'm looking to do is be making, as I've got at the bottom of this slide here, is £10 per month per listing minimum. So what we're looking really for as a general rule is £2 profit per item. Okay, we're looking for a minimum of 5 sales per month, and that's for you guys. So what you need to do is you need to look at the listing. You need to look at the overall sales per month for that listing. So let's say, for example, the item you found has 50 sales per month, and there's 9 other sellers on there. So when you jump on, there'll be 10 sellers. And that means obviously all 10 of you will be dividing those sales equally-ish. That's not really how it works in the real world, but in theory, you'll be getting an equal split of those, and you'll get 5 sales per month. And we'll talk about more about that in another more advanced video. But essentially, you can think of it, maybe you're going to get a share of, you know, an equal share of the buy box. And then what we're also looking for, guys, is a minimum of 30% ROI. And the reason I set these is because it's firstly, you want to be, you know, not everyone's got a huge amount of capital. So the lower ROI you go, the more capital you end up needing to buy all the products that you're going to buy. So to make any kind of decent money, and having a 30% ROI minimum also gives you a margin of error, because as a beginner you're going to make mistakes. We all start out, we all buy the wrong items, and we all end up making mistakes and, you know, taking a loss or breaking even or whatever it is on a wrong product. And at least with a 30% ROI, you're going to have some margin of error there. You're going to have some wiggle room so that if the price ends up tanking really hard, at least you've got some room, and hopefully we're going to try and sort of break even at least. And, you know, one of the things I also teach my students as well is you need to look at the, you know, once you're doing the research on the product, what you need to be looking at is what the top end is, what's the best case scenario, and then what's the worst case scenario. Now, obviously, the best case scenario here is going to be sort of around the 30% mark, maybe a little bit higher, you know, a minimum of 30%, let's say. But the worst case scenario, you know, looking at the history, what we want that to be is about break even. So we want the best case to be the 30, 40, 50% ROIs, and we want the worst case to be break even or a slight loss. And that way we know that, you know, if things go badly, as they sometimes do, we're not going to be losing our shirt on the product. What we want to do as a new seller, and even, you know, an advanced seller, you don't want to be going for products where, you know, the high end maybe is like 30% ROI. Let's put a pound figure on it, guys. Let's say, you know, that the best case scenario is £50 or $50 profit, and the worst case is, you know, losing $50, £50. You don't want to be in that scenario where you're going to end up losing loads of money on an item. We want it to be like $0, £0 as the worst case, and then £50, $50 as the best case scenario. And yeah, as a general rule, as I mentioned before, £10 per month per listing to kind of be worth it, really. That's the kind of the criteria that I use. Especially as you become VAT registered and stuff, there's a little bit more paperwork involved for every single order. Actually, my requirements are much higher than this now, but when I first started out, and what I teach my students is £10 per month. So if we move on to the next slide now, what we can also think about is low sales per month items. And again, this is a little bit more of an advanced technique, I suppose. But as Amazon FBA becomes more competitive, I think it's sometimes worth looking a little bit outside the box and going for those sort of lower selling items. And if you do find an item that sells not very much per month, these are kind of the requirements that I recommend that you follow. So, SPM here, guys, stands for sales per month. So, realistically, we're looking for like one sale per month as a minimum. Beyond that, it's obviously it's a little bit crazy. You'll be holding your stock for a very long time, and yeah, you need a lot of money basically. Again, now we're looking for a minimum of 30% ROI. Ideally more, guys, but again, this is a minimum ROI. But now what we're looking for is a minimum of £10 to £20 profit per item. And again, this all comes down to the previous rule where I said, you need to be making £10 per month per listing. Now, whether that's made up of 5 sales of $2, or whether that's made up of one sale of, $10, £10, whatever it is. So, yeah, that's kind of like the minimum you want. So you can be made up, as I said, of multiples of whatever. It could be 3 sales of, £3.33 profit. It's something, it doesn't really matter, but just keep in mind £10 per month per listing essentially that you're on. So, and in this case, you're looking for 10, ideally £20 per profit per item. Now, it all depends on your capital and things like that, guys. Most people who start out on Amazon have a lower capital, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend something like this for them. But if you find a good item, it's hard to pass up on the money. Now, before we move on to the common sense and the caveats that I'm going to talk about, we just need to talk about my sponsor, Profit Protector Pro. Now, guys, if you want to make a success of Amazon FBA, whether you're a new seller or an existing seller, you need a repricer. And in my opinion, the best repricer on the market is Profit Protector Pro. Now, the reason I like it is, one, it is super easy to set up. Versus other repricers. We're talking like it can be set up in 10-15 minutes, like the basics of it, which is kind of crazy, really. And you can always reach out to me for help as well if you need help with that. But also the second one as well is that it uses some really advanced AI, machine learning, algorithmic rules. I don't pretend to understand how they work exactly, but they're really clever. And what they do is they work hard to try and get you the most profit out of your items or the most sales out of your listings. So depending on what your goals are with the listing, maybe you're looking just to maximize profit. You've got 1 or 2 of a stock and you want to get the absolute maximum out of it. Well, you need to set a rule that's going to maximize your profit. And other times you've got a load of items you just want to sell really quickly, and then you probably set a more aggressive rule for that. Well, Profit Protector Pro's got 10 or 12 different AI algorithmic rules you can use, and you just select the rule and let it do its thing. Basically, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, really easy to set up, really easy to use, and it really is the best repricer on the market, guys. So if you want to sign up to that, there is a link in the description for that. Now, guys, let's go on to the next slide here. And when people ask me like, what are your minimum requirements? Like someone asked me yesterday, I give those things I've just talked about, guys. The 30% ROI, minimum of £10 per listing, £2 profit per item. But I also say, let's just use some common sense, guys. Those are just a broad general rule. But, we've got a scenario here where you'd be stupid not to buy this deal. So this one breaks all the rules in a way. But let's take this scenario, for example. Let's say you find an item that sells £1,000 per month, okay? And it's only 10% ROI. So we've broken that sort of that ROI rule that everyone seems to follow. But you can make £1 profit per item. So in this case, you'd be making £1,000 per month, okay, off this listing. Okay. Now, as long as you're sure that the item is not going to tank in price and the 10% sort of profit is very stable, then you'd be crazy to turn down £1,000 profit per month, guys. So This is where the common sense comes in. Now, it's a little bit more of an advanced thing to think about, because you could quite easily mess this up. Obviously, with a 10% ROI margin, you have very little margin for error there, and you could end up buying 1,000 items and breaking even on them. So you can see why we set those sort of these sort of the rules in the first place. But if you find an item like this and you're very sure it's always going to make 10% ROI, it's very stable listing. Maybe you're the only one that can source this product or whatever, or something like that. So then obviously you're going to be stupid to turn down this kind of item. So yeah, be careful before you jump into something like this. But let's use some common sense. And let's just look at another sort of common sense scenario again. So in this case, we're looking at 1 sale per month. Maybe I should have made it, half a sale per month, which is like 1 every 2 months. And we're only making 15% ROI again. But we can make £100 per item. Again, this is more of a high capital scenario. You need a lot of money behind you to be buying an item like this, and be willing to wait out a month to make £100 profit. However, again, if you've got the capital for it, this would be a great purchase to go for. So this is where the common sense comes into it again. And that's the thing I try and drill into my students and people that ask me in my my Discord group, is that basically you need to be thinking, don't just be following rules. Rules don't work in Amazon FBA when you get a little bit more advanced. We have the rules there that can help us when we start out, but then we need to start venturing out of those rules a little bit if you're going to be ultra successful. And guys, it's just worth mentioning that I have a 100% free Discord group, link in the description for that. It is an amazing community of around 340 members now, who we all help each other out. People can ask questions, whether you're a brand new Amazon FBA seller looking to get into Amazon, whether you're an existing Amazon seller, I'm in there to help you. I answer all questions to help you. So get started or scale your business. It's all for free, guys. I'm helping you for free. It's all in there. It's just a really great community. There's a bunch of people and they'll help you as well. So it's a really great place. Join that link in the description. We're using Discord to do this. It's a fantastic piece of software to help us run a really nice community. So guys, join that and don't miss out. So guys, hopefully you found that video useful and it gives you some sort of basic criteria for your sourcing. You have those first 2 sort of rules you can follow. But like I say, let's just keep some common sense in mind. Now, what you don't want to do, guys, is immediately throw out those rules that I've just given you and start looking for these crazy listings. All I'm saying here is you've got some good guidelines to follow, and maybe you just should follow those the first 2, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever you're doing on Amazon FBA. But obviously, if you come across an item that's an amazing seller, you're going to make loads of money on it. You can reach out to me, reach out to anyone else in my Discord group, and just ask if this looks like a good item. Because you're not going to turn down money, basically. Thanks guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you in the next one.